Really a pleasure to discuss the provisions of the finance bill. From this, I would say hallowed podium, the podium which was graced by none other than Mr. Palkhiwala, and then my senior Mr. Bansi Mehta, and now that I have the opportunity to talk to you, it's really an occasion which one cherishes.
So, on behalf of A Square LLP, we sincerely appreciate your valuable time in sharing your thoughts with us on the occasion of CA Day on the topic exploring the role of chartered accountant in steering and evaluating business success. So, thank you so much, sir, for coming here.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine. Tell me.
So, drawing your from your experience in corporate world, how have you been witnessing the evolving role of chartered accountants in shaping corporate decision-making process?
Chartered accountants have always played a pivotal role in the corporate decision-making process. So in a sense, it's not evolving, it was always there. Let's put it that way. But it is evolving also because it is growing larger rather than lesser. Now, what are the areas? The point is, the world is becoming more finance oriented. And in a world where services are more important than manufacture, etc., and operations, even more so. So one is finance, second is compliance, third is regulation, and last is things like tax. Then comes the disclosure, the accounting. Each of these aspects is playing a vital role for a company in carrying on its business. So where do chartered accountants come in? They come in these areas, but not just these areas. Say a company wants to do an IPO, it has to raise finance. The chartered accountant is required at both ends. What I mean is, he assists the company in preparing their accounts, in disclosing them properly, the proper accounting manner, and so on. But he is also the merchant banker very often. On the merchant banker side, the key person dealing with it is likely to be a CA who is preparing the information memorandum, putting that information in a manner in which the market wants to see it. He is also perhaps sitting in the regulator, the man in SEBI or in some other regulator's office who is going to look at that information memorandum and evaluate it is 8 out of 10 chances a chartered accountant. So he is again at that role. Then comes the man who is marketing it. He will also perhaps be a chartered accountant, the distributor. So this is just one example. Take a bank loan. You will again find that at all levels, from the company, from the bank, from at all parts, it is ultimately a CA who's helping. So therefore, decision-making process, their assistance comes within the company, where they play all these important roles, as I said, compliance, accounting, tax, regulatory, and finally, more important, how does this finance affect the company and all the other service providers and third parties through whom those decisions are implemented.
सो घूम फिर के सीए का रोल बहुत बड़ा है और हर जगह हमें सीए की इम्पोर्टेंस पता चलेगी हर स्टेजेस में.
That's right.
So could you share a memorable example from your career where the insights and expertise of chartered accountants play a pivotal role in overcoming a significant financial obstacle or crisis? ये होता है ना कि आग लगे कंपनी में तो भाई सीए को बुला लो, वो कर देगा सब कुछ.
Yeah, I mean, there are examples at all ends of this. आपने कहा वैसे, they are there for firefighting when there is a problem, but that to my mind is an important role, but not so important as being there not for firefighting, but for growth, for jumping from level 1 to level 2 and from level 2 to level 3. That is where you need chartered accountants more. And let me put it, where they play a far more positive role than what they do when there is a fire. So, yes, if a company is under IBC, a company is in insolvency, the RP is likely to be a CA. But for growth, now, what are those examples? As you said, again, there are innumerable. Take, for example, Indian company finding which was the position 20, 30 years back. The position is changing in the last 2, 3 years. So 30 years back, Indian companies who wanted to raise money, the first choice was the Indian capital market. But the Indian capital market had its limitations. It was not deep, it was not broad, you didn't have as many players in the market. And therefore, for companies of a certain size, funds were not available or not enough funds were available. Things improved. And today, even those who have gone abroad want to come back to India because they can raise more money in India than what they can raise there. But that's today's position. As I said, in the past, it was different. Now, at least one of our key clients wanted to shift from India, so flip to the UK market. It is there where the chartered accountants had to play a great role to find a route which would solve the regulatory problem. The regulations were not clear. The regulations were not meant to permit a flip from India to abroad, but you had to find a way within that. You had to find a way within the tax laws. You had to find a way which would convince the merchant bankers on the other side that the accounts were realistic, genuine, and that this company was entitled to come and make a IPO here. So that had to be done. Now, that is the type of role where somebody could virtually handhold the promoter through this. And the journey, touch wood, in that particular case, proved very profitable over the years. Or take another example, a major merger, an acquisition really, but the acquisition was to be by way of merger, was being negotiated between two parties. One was the MNC, which wanted to sell its Indian business, and the Indian promoter who wanted to buy. But the price was not, the difference between their expectations was not sufficiently nearby, so one was not getting across. Now, one of the key costs of the transaction was the capital gain which the non-resident would have to pay. If the chartered accountant could find a way, and he could find a way, under which, on examining the transaction, he found that it was possible that really the MNC did not have a tax liability in India. Because the capital gain, if computed in dollars, was say nil. If computed in rupees, was humongous because of the difference in exchange rates at different points of time. Now, that simple factor had not struck the MNC. They were calculating their capital gain in rupees. So for them, that was a huge cost. Net of capital gains, their realization was not enough to meet their expectation. The chartered accountant could find a way, and he advised the Indian promoter, you tell the MNC that I will pay you this amount net. Whatever tax is payable on this is mine.
It's mine.
I'll bear it. So as far as they are concerned, that cost goes off. In their mind, the cost was 100. So they were giving you a credit for 100. In the mind of the Indian promoter, the cost was 0. So he was happy to make this offer. It worked because that 100 allowed the gap to be bridged. So that's the type of thing which chartered accountants can come in at the right time.
So very true, sir. So by this, उसे बोलते हैं ना कि सब खुश होगा एक ट्रांजैक्शन से, सीए और दोनों पार्टीज भी. That's really good.
Mm.
So
Right.
with the rapid advancement in technology and data analytics, how do you envisage the role of chartered accountants evolving in the coming decades to effectively leverage these tools for strategic business growth? जो अभी आप बात कर रहे थे ना कि बिजनेस ग्रोथ में ध्यान देना, तो आजकल टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से आपको क्या लगता है कि क्या रोल पढ़ना चाहिए इसमें?
It's a very, very difficult question because it's very difficult to envisage where technology will take us in the next few months, leave aside next few years. How fast is AI growing? How fast are other technology tools growing? And what are the resources which they will make available? And as more resources become available, you need more ability to harness them. It's like having a very strong horse below you. That's one of the strongest ways of being able to race fast. But you should know how to control that horse. Otherwise, the horse is useless, you will fall.
Yes, very true.
So, the whole issue is as technology is growing, we need to be able to learn to harness it and use it. And it is growing at a very, very rapid pace. It is, the future shock, which was Alvin Toffler's book. Everything grows at geometric progression. So, the same technology which grew in the last 16 years will grow now in 4 years, then in 40 days. I mean, that way. So, that geometric progression makes a complete difference. And that's what's happening. What will chartered accountants, to my mind, will have a far greater role because with technology, you will be able to control data. All data which you need, subject to your being able to harness it, will be available. What you now need is somebody who can understand that data and use that data to make the right decision. And I think chartered accountants who have an expertise in analysis, in understanding problems, evaluating them, and solving them will be the right people who will be able to now use this data. Till today, they are working on both sides. But let us say 70% of their time is spent in collecting data and 30% in evaluating and analyzing. They are not as effective as when they spend 30% in collecting data and in 70% in evaluating and analyzing. And that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
So you are rightly said, sir, that we need more expertise of adjusting that fast growing technology phase also. Otherwise, we will not be able to handle this speed.
Absolutely. You have a very powerful tool, but the more powerful the tool, the more powerful.
So more powerful tool and more powerful mind is also required to handle that tool.
Correct.
So, sir, as we celebrate the Chartered Accountants Day, what message would you like to convey to aspiring financial professionals regarding the importance of integrity and ethical conduct in upholding the profession's reputations?
See, those two are bedrocks. Now, whether you are using a powerful tool of technology, whether you are advising a client on a very complex position, whether you are doing an audit, whether you are doing a consulting assignment, whatever you are doing, integrity and ethics are bedrocks. Without them, whichever area you are in will be ineffective. You will be exposed. And the point is, the market has come to doubt integrity and ethics of the profession to some extent. We still have some of the best goodwill in the world as professionals in this area, but the fact remains that with so many corporate failures, problems, people are looking for a scapegoat as to who is responsible for it. And very often they are putting the blame on the chartered accountant. Now, really, I think in 9 out of 10 cases, the blame is wrong. It is not a problem of integrity and ethics. But the problem is that we are not experts at demonstrating that integrity and ethics. It is one thing that you are ethical, which you must be. Without that, according to me, no CA should even think of getting ahead in the profession. But he must also find a way in which the market comes to realize and accept that if so and so has audited or so and so has said this, he has no bias, he has no axe to grind, he is not doing it for a personal reason, he is doing it because it is in the best interest of the client. That message has to go home. We have to be able to demonstrate that we are ethical, not just be ethical.
Very soon. So some message should be go at large level. So reflecting on your journey as a chartered accountant, what personal attributes or skill have you found most instrumental in achieving success at both the executive and board level? I understand you have hold an executive levels and currently on a boards also. So how your qualification help it?
Why even executive and board, I am as much in practice, professional practice, as I have been. Yes, I have been a corporate executive, I have been in professional practice, and I serve on various boards. You are right. The point is the skill which you need at all places is, I would say, primarily the ability to listen, the ability to understand, and understand what the other man wants. What is the need of the hour? What is the need of the person? See, whenever somebody asks you a thing, 8 out of 10 times, he is asking you X because he has really in his mind Y. Something else is troubling him. He is not necessarily telling you exactly what is troubling him. So if the stomach is paining and he is telling you about a headache, you should be able to understand that it is not the headache, it's the stomach, or that is the cause. And therefore, understanding him and then trying to solve that problem. And for solving that problem, the art of evaluation and analysis, which is what we are fundamentally trained to do as chartered accountants. So that skill is required, but that comes secondary. As I said, the first skill is understanding what you are required to do. Second is being able to do what you are required to do. That also requires technical skill. That cannot be forgotten. You cannot, just do analysis if you don't know the basics. So that's a given. So just as ethics and integrity are given, technical skills are given, that you know your subject. Now that you know your subject, understand what you want to achieve and achieve it by evaluation, analysis, and last and most important, articulate. It's one thing that you have solved it. Explain it to the other man. Put it to him, tell him. And tell him in the language which he will understand. If you tell him in your language, he will not understand, it will be useless. So, though you have got the best solution, you will not be valued for it. You will be valued if you can articulate and tell him. And that is one area where chartered accountants are comparatively weaker than others. That's a skill which we must learn more and more. We are very good at solving it. We are not very good at saying how it is solved and explaining it to the other man that this is the solution in the language which he will understand.
So we are trying to explain the language of income tax and GST law, but we are not simplifying that language and explaining to him in his layman language.
Exactly.
So considering the increasing emphasis on the sustainability and corporate social responsibility, how can chartered accountants contribute in it?
Why only chartered accountants? Every single citizen, every single player in the market has to contribute to CSR and sustainability. It is not something which is peculiar to chartered accountants. Where do you think we can help? We can help in those areas where we have an expertise, which will add to sustainability and CSR. So as far as CSR is concerned, one is the operative part. of what decisions to take, whether you want to assist in healthcare, whether you want to assist in education, whether you want to give people a career, whether you want to give water in a parched area, and so on. Where do we come in? We come in evaluating the feasibility of these projects, in being able to implement them, in seeing whether we have the resources and matching those resources to the project which is under contemplation, and finally in the impact assessment. These are all areas which to a great extent depend on numbers, great extent depend on data and using of data, and that is where chartered accountants have an expertise. So that is where we can add to CSR. Where do we add to sustainability? I think sustainability we should be in our DNA. So every balance sheet which we read, every P&L account, it's one thing to read the sales, it's one thing to read the profits, the current assets and the current liabilities. What is that company doing? Is this profit coming at the cost of sustainability? Are the processes which they are doing best for this purpose? And if they are not, then that profit that is not likely to be sustained in the years to come, and we must take that into consideration in evaluation. So sustainability has to be in the DNA. You have to make it the most important element which you take into account when you are analyzing or evaluating anything. Automatically you will add to sustainability, because then people know that they have to use sustainable processes rather than profitable processes, because profitable are not always sustainable.
Correct. So we sincerely appreciate your insightful responses. Our discussion has been an incredible enriching. It has been a true honor to engage in this conversation with you on the occasion of CA, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your valuable time.
Thank you, Arjit. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.